So we have three key sites other than Mecca. They all class as part of the Mecca boundary anyway. But there's three key sites you're going to be visiting in Hajj. Number one, Mina. Mina is a vast valley. The image you see there is literally not even 1/4 of the amount of tents in Mina. That's cropped from a very large aerial view image I had. And there's hundreds of thousands of tents there, as you can see. So it's very easy to get lost. So don't go wandering sightseeing in Mina when you're there. As soon as your group get to your tent, stay around that area. Don't go visiting other areas, because if you do get lost, good luck getting back. That's what I'll say. So it's a large valley, vast valley, 5 miles east of Masjid al-Haram. Mina was the valley where the test of Ibrahim alayhi salam being told to sacrifice Ismail alayhi salam took place. So the points that we're going to stone the pillars of Jamarat, those are the instances where Shaitan came. And towards the end of Mina, there's actually, if you go on a tour there, during Umrah time, they show you there's like a little pillar where it is said that's where Ismail alayhi salam was put to try and be sacrificed. Also, many people don't know this is the location where the first bay'ah took place in Islam. When the Prophet ﷺ had 12 people come from Madinatul Munawwara, from Yathrib, and they pledged their allegiance to him. So the first pledge took place during the season of Hajj in Mina as well. Then we have Arafat. Arafat is a vast plain land. There is the mountain of mercy there, known as Jabal al-Rahmah. It's got a pillar on there. People think that we have to go there. There's large crowds. There's no need to go there or climb that mountain. That shouldn't be your focus when you're there. Don't try to put yourself at risk for no reason. There's going to be millions of people from all across the world, and if you're far away and your group is on the other side, don't even bother trying to go, because you're going to get lost. But it's 12 miles east of Mecca. When you see the map, you'll understand that better. It holds the mountain of mercy. This is the place where we will be doing something called wuquf. We'll talk about that, and it's the place of dua. That's the main act of the day of Arafah. And the day of Arafah is the best day in the entire year. We'll talk about that in detail also. And it's the location of real Hajj. By that I mean that a person who has not done their standing and dua in Arafah, their Hajj does not count. That's why those people, for example, if they become hospitalized or they're in an ambulance or something happens, what they normally do, you may see when you're in Arafat, there'll be air ambulances, helicopters coming, where they bring the Haji, even if they're unconscious or they're on a drip or anything, and they'll just bring them in Mina, or in Arafat rather, for a very short amount of time, as long as the bare minimum is, so that the Hajj is done. So if you don't, for example, it's very easy because you're in the boundary of the Haram, and if you fall out of the boundary and you're not in that specific time frame, you need to be there, your Hajj will not count. So that is the main part of Hajj. That is the main farad of Hajj. Everything else is additional. And then you're going to be also going to Muzdalifah. Muzdalifah is going to be a very unique experience. It's a plain, open land. There's 2-3 things you're going to do there alongside the wuquf after Fajr. You're going to be collecting pebbles. We'll talk about that in detail, how many you need. And also, you're going to be sleeping under the stars. You're going to be sleeping on the plain land. That's why I mentioned you may, if your group does not include it, your package does not include it, you may need to take a sleeping bag, unless you're ready to go, be very naturist and, sleep on the ground, mashallah. But it may not be comfortable for a lot of us. We're not used to that, so you might need a sleeping bag. But you'll be sleeping under the open sky. And as you lie down, you can forget all your 5-star hotels. Those people that have been will tell you that this is like it's more than 7-star experience. When you lie down and the spiritual moment that you feel there is very unique. So these are the 3 locations we're going to be visiting. We're going to be talking about these in detail now. So just to go back to that first map we had, there's Masjid al-Haram, the white dot. The white on the side is Mina. Then we have Muzdalifah adjacent to that. And at the far end we have the plain of Arafat. So let's zoom in a little bit. So there's Masjid al-Haram. If your hotel is staying in Azizia, Hajj time they do opt for that a lot, because it's very easy to get into Mina and out of Mina. It's literally on the way between Mina and Mecca. So that's where Azizia is located. Mina is there. And then adjacent to that is Muzdalifah. And then we have over here, all at the bottom, the plain of Arafah. Where it says Masjid Namira, also I mentioned just now, there's Masjid Namira in Mina, Masjid al-Khayf in Masjid al-Khayf in Mina, Masjid Namira in Arafah. Don't, if your tent is far away, which most likely it will be, don't think you have to go there or make a point of going there. Especially in Mina, for example, Masjid Khayf, if you look over here, is over there on the left side, and on the right side is where the European camps are, to where we're going for, where European tents will be over there. And to get to Masjid Khayf, you have to go through a tunnel through that mountain where the dotted line is. And from the European camps to Masjid Khayf, in that, it's going to be a packed environment, a lot of people, it can take about 1 hour to walk. And even if you think you know your way back, all the tents look the same, you are definitely going to get lost. So don't think you have to go there. Although it is the location where the tent of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in Mina. And so people may want to go and visit that. Maybe it might be an option that if you go in Umrah season, Allah give you the opportunity to go again. In Umrah, when there's no one there, when it's empty, you can go and visit then, inshallah. Hajj time, you don't want to get lost. That's not the time you want to get lost. So this is a more zoomed in picture of Mina. So from the Jamarat, where Masjid Khayf is, that is very close to where the Jamarat is. So from the European tents, like I mentioned, is a long walk, so you have to be prepared for that long walk. That's why I'll be mentioning that quite a lot to get you prepared. Yeah. So even with your health and your fitness, maybe you might do some training and preparation for that as well, inshallah. Okay, so now let's look at the actual 5 days of Hajj. So this was a quick summary. Once again, I'll just show you the 3 locations we're visiting. There's Mina, there's Arafat, and Muzdalifah. And from the map, you now have an idea how far or close it is from Masjid al-Haram to get to the Kaaba, or from the Kaaba also. So the 5 days of Hajj, we're going to enter into Ihram. We're going to wear the clothing of Ihram. We're going to make the intention for Ihram. I talked about that earlier on, where you don't need to go to the Tan'im or the Miqat like you would have to for Hajj. Your Ihram is going to be from Masjid al-Haram, from Mecca. That could be from your hotel or from Masjid al-Haram. And it is sunnah in those 2 rakats that you're going to read for the entering into Ihram. It is sunnah to read Surah Al-Kafirun in the first rakat and Surah Al-Ikhlas in the second rakat. Thereafter, we're going to say the talbiyah, labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika laka labbaik, inna alhamda wa ni'mata laka wal mulk, la sharika laka labbaik. And now we are now in the state of Ihram. So until we don't utter the first labbaik, we do not enter the state of Ihram. Okay, then the next thing now we're going to do is look at each day, and we're going to go through each day in detail. If you do want to take a picture or make some notes, feel free to as I'm talking. But after we go through all of these, I'll have a very quick summary overview as well. So you can maybe take a picture of that as well at the end, inshallah. So day 1, when are we going to get into Ihram first of all? This getting into Ihram, when is this going to be? So day 1 is going to be on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah. Now, certain groups, sometimes they like to go the night before to get there early, and they may leave on the night of the 7th. So on the 7th, at night, before the actual morning of the day, before Fajr, they may leave. It's not that you can't, but you need to make sure before you leave Mecca, if that is the case, you're in the state of Ihram. So all what we talked about entering Ihram has to be done in Mecca, in Masjid al-Haram, before we make our way to Mina. So now, the 8th day of Dhul Hijjah, which I believe this year is going to be on around, I can't remember, I just looked at it last night. I think it's maybe a Tuesday it's a Friday. Yeah, Thursday or Friday most likely. Yeah, so you're going to be leaving, it could be Thursday, Friday morning. You're going to perform your Fajr Salah the conventional way, the Sunnah way, is you perform your Fajr Salah in Mecca. If it means you're in Azizah and you don't have the time to go to Masjid al-Haram, you can pray in a local masjid there or do a jama'ah with your group. Maybe the hotel might have a prayer room, but try pray with jama'ah. Pray your Fajr Salah and then enter into Ihram. And then whenever the time is for your coach or whatever, however the package says, as per your schedule, you're now going to make your way to Mina. It is sunnah to leave Mecca and to go towards Mina after sunrise. But when it comes to groups and packages, before anyone could do everything themselves. Now you have to stick with your group and the routine they set for you. Hopefully your schedule will be after sunrise, but don't start fighting with your group leader. No, it's sunnah to go after sunrise. I'm going to stay, you lot can go. No, don't do that, because then you're not going to go. If you've never been, you don't know where your camp is, you don't know how to get there, you're not going to be able to find them afterwards. So just follow through with the schedule. Just remember what we talked about, controlling ourselves. There's going to be things where we may want something, but it's not always going to go our way. So we're going to need a lot of patience throughout this Hajj. We're going to make our way towards the encampment in Mina. As soon as you get there, to be honest, the 8th day is like the warm-up. So there's nothing really you need to do in terms of rites. You're going to go to your tent, and for many of us, this may be the first time where you'll see the location of where you're going to sleep. It's like, for example, the width of maybe like just a little bit larger than a coffin. This is the first time maybe where you're going to be sleeping pretty close to someone other than your spouse. So if you've never had the experience or you're not comfortable with that, it will be a truly an experience, inshallah. So psychologically prepare yourself for that. So in your tent, the space you have is very minimal. Don't start rushing to go in first. I'm going to put my bag there so I have more space for myself. Remember we talked about last session about ithar, about giving priority to others. One of the characteristics which the Prophet ﷺ embedded in the Sahaba was something called ithar. Ithar is giving others priority over our own self. And if you can't do this in Hajj, then when can we do this? Hajj is that pilgrimage, the spiritual pilgrimage of self-sacrifice. Hajj is all about sacrifice. Even the people that don't go for Hajj, what do? We do qurban, we sacrifice an animal. So there's going to be things that we have to sacrifice our nafs. Sacrifice things that we don't like, situations we don't like to be in, putting ourselves, maybe, it's going to hurt our ego, hurt our nafs. But that's the only way we're going to get that cleanliness and cleansing of our nafs, inshallah. So when we do return from Hajj, we have become that pure. We talked about the virtues of Hajj last week. You become that pure being. You're like the day you were born, Rasulullah said. كَيَوْمٍ وَلَدَتْهُ أُمُّهُ. Like the day your mother gave birth to you, that's how pure you are, sinless, completely pure. So these things will only come about if we also work on cleaning our ego, or working against our ego rather. And this is going to be your first instance where your nafs is going to be tested, where you don't have that much personal space, for example. You're out of your comfort zone. So get used to that. Settle in the tent, rest. Yeah, just rest. Do your basics you need to do. Your salah you're going to do with your group there. Get used to where the location of maybe the washrooms are. Where do I get my breakfast, lunch and dinner? Where do I eat? How do I sleep? How do I sit? Just rest. That's all I can say. Because the next 2 days are going to be very, very busy. So the energy for the next 2 days will be based on how you spend this day. So maybe get some qaylula, some siesta naps in. Do some light worship, like just basic dhikr, reading Quran, just stretching your legs out on your bedding or whatever that they have given you in your tent, and just get used to that, inshallah. I mean, they are trying to enhance the experience for Hajj anyway, so it won't be what people used to experience before. If for example, your parents or people from the older generation that have been before, they will have, especially when it comes to washrooms. That's one key thing in Hajj where people talk about, where there's been people who they can't answer the call of nature in areas that are not befitting to their comfort zone. So they will, for example, force themselves to not go to toilet for a couple of days. And you don't want to do that, because the after effects of that, you don't know what's going to happen. So they are trying to improve it. It is much better than it used to be before. But like I said, it's not going to be something we're used to. So, psychologically prepare yourself for that as well, inshallah. So get used to where you're going to sleep. You're going to be based in Mina for a large proportion of these days. So this is going to be like your camp, your base, like your home. Your Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib and Isha, you're going to pray here, as well as the Fajr of the following morning. So the Fajr of the 9th, you'll pray here and then you're going to leave. It is sunnah to now remain in Mina until sunrise the next morning. So after sunrise, you're now going to leave Mina to go to the next stage. Where you're going to go, that's going to be the next slide. So like I said, get rest, preserve energy for the upcoming days. Spend your time in reading any books you have. You want to maybe have a recap of what you wrote down today. What am I expecting to do? Maybe you might want to read some Quran, read some du'as. Look over your du'a list that you had. The next day is going to be, you're going to be really looking at your du'a list. What are the key things I want to make du'a for? Maybe they might have new things come in your head, right? Jot those down. And thereafter, spend your time in dhikr, du'a, and light worship, like I said. So 8th day is a pre-warm-up, you could say. Then now, the 9th day, after sunrise, we are now going to make our way towards Arafat, the plain of Arafat. The day of Arafat is the best day of the year. It's not my words, these are the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, the best day the sun rises in the year is the day of Arafah. And so people who are not in Hajj, remember in Hajj you don't fast in Hajj, but whoever is not in Hajj, if they fast on this day, they get the reward of the previous year and the upcoming year sins forgiven. Don't think, oh, why are Hajjis or in Hajj I'm not allowed to fast, I want my previous year and upcoming year sins forgiven. Don't worry, you're going for Hajj, you're forgiven anyway, inshallah. So you're going to go after sunrise, and you need to aim to get to wherever your group is going to be located. The tents in Arafat are very different to Mina. So there are sort of tents there, but it's not like you're going to have your own space and stuff the way you already had in Mina. It may be slightly different depending on what your package offers. But there will be a tent, and in this tent you will be located for your time in Arafat. Now the main thing of Arafat is, the thing that is the farad of Hajj, is wuquf. What does wuquf mean? Wuquf literally means to stand. And what that means is part of the rituals of Hajj, the day of Arafah, is you're going to be standing and making dua to Allah. And this, for many people, is a turning point in their lives, of changing their lives, becoming a better Muslim. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam spent the entire time in dua for the duration of, if you work out the maths of the time, how time works in Arabia, so you can say approximately 4 to 6 hours Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was standing in dua. So in his dua with hands raised, the Sahaba in certain narrations they mentioned that when his hands were raised in dua at certain points, it's like you could see the underarms of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's how high he would be raising his hands in dua. He'd lower them, then he'd raise them, he'd lower them and raise them. And he made a large proportion of the dua he made in Arafat was for who? For you and I, for his ummah. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he spent that entire time, his wuquf, in dua. So that dua list that we talked about, your focus should be to stand for as long as, I'm not telling you have to stand for 6 hours. The farad is you stand for a couple of minutes, that's your farad, bare basic minimum. Couple of minutes, you're there standing and you're engaged in dua. Now if you can't stand, sit down afterwards, it's fine. If you want to, for example, after dhuhr have a little qaylula, have a nap, and then wake up, prepare yourself, do wudu, and then start your wuquf. Remember, it has to be done before sunset. So from dhuhr, you're also going to take a break for asr salah also. Your wuquf has to be done before sunset. The entire time between dhuhr and sunset is a time for wuquf. So it's that special moment. It's advisable, like I said, just stay where your group is. Don't try to go towards the Mount of Mercy, Jabal al-Rahma, where the pillar is, where people try to go. Obviously, that's where the day of Arafah, that's where the reason it's called the Mountain of Mercy, that's where the mercy descends on the day of Arafah. On the day of Arafah, it's said that Shaitan, he's just watching from afar, he's not allowed to come close, and he's so sorrowful witnessing the mercy of Allah and how everyone there is getting forgiven and he can't do anything about it. So that is a very bad day for Shaitan and a very good day for you and I. So make the most of that. And there is also the sermon of Arafat that takes place. So what happens is normally in the Masjid Namira, there's a sermon which whoever the government tells that year to do, they have the large sermon. But also within the smaller tents or the smaller groups, normally they have a group leader or a sheikh who also may deliver a speech, a lecture or a sermon or even a khutbah on the day of Hajj. You don't have to, it's not, you have to, like for Jumu'ah, for Eid Salah, it's part of the thing. It's just a sunnah. If you're there and it's happening, you can listen. Also, many people, they want to engage in congregational dua. So you got 2-3 things you could do. Number one, congregational dua is obviously the point of wuquf of Arafah is for you to make your own dua. Yeah. So you could do, for example, you have a section where at the beginning you do all of your personal du'as with Allah, and then after you think that there's nothing more, you can't carry on, you don't know what else to say, or you're not in the practice of what to do, then you may have a group leader or a sheikh or someone there pious who will be making dua. You could join their dua for a little while, and then towards the end, maybe you've done your du'as, you've joined that dua, and you're just waiting for the time between Asr and Maghrib. What you could do, for example, is you get dua books. You get famous dua books like, for example, Al-Hizb Al-A'zam. A very famous dua book. Al-Hizb Al-A'zam is a book in which it's got every dua for everything you need is in there. Anything you want good, anything you want refuge from, any sunnah dua, everything's in that book. I would really recommend, if you've never heard of that book, Al-Hizb Al-A'zam, any Islamic bookshop will have it. Even if you just go online, you can get a PDF. You can also get apps of it nowadays. And some of these publications, the apps also have the translation. So if you look at the meaning also, that might inspire you. Maybe if you get one from now, as you're preparing for Hajj, that might inspire you of certain words you could use in your dua. I think 2 tips I can give you today for dua for Arafat. If you're not used to making long duas, number 1, get a book like Hizbul Azam, look at the translation as well, and think about, okay, these I've never thought of this, whether actually I need this for my worldly life, for my family, for my loved ones, for my hereafter, for my spirituality, for myself. So maybe I could make duas like this. Maybe look at those also. And the second one is maybe go on YouTube or listen to certain people who are known for making good long duas. So in the English language, for example, there's people like Sheikh Suleiman Katani, who he can make dua for 2 hours and he won't get bored. And he's got amazing, his duas are also on YouTube. In the Urdu language, there's Maulana Tariq Jamil, Mufti Tariq Masood, and there's other people who make long duas. We used to have Hafiz Patel Rahmatullah alayhi in Dewsbury. His duas were famous, very, very long. So maybe you'll get an idea, what can I do dua about? You can talk about yourself, your family, your work, your loved ones, what your goals and future aspirations in life, what you actually want from Allah. Remember, every good and bad in our life comes from Allah. Everything is in the control of Allah. We just have to ask. Allah just wants us to ask. So this dua list that you're going to make from now is going to be very useful through your wuquf in Arafat. So I'm going to be focusing a lot on, when I talk about wuquf, about your dua list. So remember, Arafat is the most important aspect of Hajj. It's for you to have that intimate moment with Allah. For you to have a conversation with Allah. Your dua is not just reading رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Yes, this is a dua which is in the Quran. It's a good dua to make. But if you don't know the meaning of that, you're just reciting it, for example, that's not dua. Dua is munajat. Munajat means you're having a conversation. And if you're having a conversation, you're putting a requesting, or you're even begging, how would you word that? It doesn't have to be in Arabic. Any language you want. Your mother tongue, in English. There could be instances where you're not even talking. Your mind, your heart, your tears are doing the talking for you. That is also counted as dua. So make that moment. Maybe for many of us, that might be the first time I've made dua in my life, but I've not actually had an intimate conversation with Allah. And this is the moment for that. So that's why Arafat is so special. That's why it's the best day of the year. Also, when you're not doing dua, a lot of the times, what I've written there, La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, lahul mulku wa lahul hamd, wa huwa ala kulli shayin qadir. Rasulullah said that the best thing that I and any of the prophets before me said, specifically when it comes to the day of Arafah, he said this for, is this dua here, this dhikr here. La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, lahul mulku wa lahul hamd, wa huwa ala kulli shayin qadir. As much as possible, when you're not doing anything, maybe you're waiting for salah, you're resting, you're stretching your legs out, spend your time, keep your tongues moist with this dhikr, inshallah. Okay, so you're going to be engaged in this until Maghrib Salah. However, you're not going to pray a Maghrib Salah. Before we get there, I've talked about over there, point number 2, you may be thinking, what have I written here? Dhuhr, it's time, Asr, it's time, or Masjid Nabira, Qasr, and combine. Okay, so talking of Salah, if you're going to be in Mecca, when you land in Mecca, and you're going to be in Mecca before the 8th of Dhul Hijjah for 14 days or less, then your entire Hajj you'll be doing Qasr. You'll be shortening your Salahs if you're not praying behind a local resident Imam. So even in your tents, for example, if you've got your own small Jama'ah of Salah taking place, or you're praying Salah by yourself, you're going to be only praying 2 rakats for the 4 rakat Salahs. So for Dhuhr, Asr, and for Isha. When it comes to the day of Arafah, there's something specific now. When the khutbah takes place in the Masjid Namira, anyone who's there or who prays behind the Imam there, this is only specific for them. They will pray their Dhuhr and Asr together combined. And even if they're residents of Makkah, they will pay Qasr, they will only pay 2 rakats. But this is only specific to Masjid Namira, the location there. So most likely, you are not going to be going there. If you do, then maybe that will be the case, but most likely you will be in your own. So when Dhuhr time comes, you pray your Dhuhr Salah. When Asr time comes, you pray your Asr Salah. If you've been there for 15 days or more in Makkah beforehand, you will pray full 4 rakats. If you've been for less than 15 days, for 14 days or less, you will do Qasr, you will only pay 2 rakats. So that's the ruling for Dhuhr and Asr. Now why have I only talked about Dhuhr and Asr? Because for Maghrib and Isha there's something completely different. Before we get to that, remember from the day of Arafat, the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, from Fajr Salah, we're used to it. From here, every Hajj season it happens. As soon as we do Salam after Fard Salah, we pray the Takbirat, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, wa lillahi alhamd. So just remember that that's also from Fajr of the day of Arafat. Okay, so now, what about Maghrib and Isha? The sun's going to set And after that, you're going to leave Arafat and go towards Muzdalifah. However, you are not going to pray your Maghrib Salah at all. You're going to just go. The sun will completely set, it might even become dark, depending on when your group is going. Even if you don't get to Muzdalifah till midnight, whatever time you get to Muzdalifah, wherever your schedule is, however you get there, via coach, via walking, whenever you get to Muzdalifah, so 99% you are going to already get there when Isha time has started, but you say you're not going to pray your Maghrib yet. When you get to Muzdalifah, there's going to be one adhan and one iqamah, and then there's going to be Maghrib and Isha prayed together. There's not going to be a separate iqamah for Maghrib either. So there'll be one adhan, one iqamah, and Maghrib and Isha is combined together. This is specific for Muzdalifah for the 9th of Dhul Hijjah. So I'm going to repeat that again one more time in case you missed it. You're going to leave Arafat after sunset. You're not going to pray Maghrib. You're going to make your way towards Muzdalifah. You're going to arrive in Muzdalifah. And when you arrive in Muzdalifah, it is going to be Isha time. It's going to be dark. Or maybe if you get early, maybe closer to Isha time, or you might just have just started. The Nusuk app does tell you, if you have the Nusuk app, you don't have it already, you can get it. The Nusuk app does have daily the times of Salah, so you can know when is the beginning time of Salah. So you'll know Isha time has started. When you get there, you're going to pray your Isha and Maghrib combined together. This is specific for Muzdalifah only. Once you prayed your Maghrib and Isha in Muzdalifah, now you've got two things remaining to do for this night before you wake up in the morning. You might want to do it at night, or you could do it in the morning when you wake up. One is the collecting of pebbles. A minimum you're going to need is 49. And when you talk about why, when we talk about the rituals for the pelting, you'll know why. For each you need 7. So there's a minimum of 49 you need. If you think that, you may need extra just in case your stone doesn't get there or you lose it, it might be a good idea to get a bit more. And if you do plan on staying an extra day, so when we get to the end of the 12th, there's a specific rule that if Fajr time starts for the next day, you have to stay till the 13th and you have to do another round of pelting, then you need 70. So depending on what your schedule is, if you are staying in Mina till the 13th, you'll need 70 minimum. If you're not, you're doing the normal Hajj, 5 days of Hajj, you need a minimum of 49, but it's always good to get a few extra. The size of the pebbles you collect, don't worry, you want to think there's millions of people, where am I going to find pebbles? There'll be enough pebbles. You'll find loads and loads. Muzdalifah, that's all it is, pebbles everywhere. So the pebble has to be minimum the size of a pea or a date seed. Yeah, don't get something so tiny and how you even going to throw it, you don't even know if it's going to get there. Minimum the size of a pea. You don't need to get a whole big rock. You'll see all sorts there. People will think when you talk about the pelting, they think that actually they're taking the anger out, shaitan, they'll take the slippers off, throw the umbrellas and their bags and everything. That's not what you're there to do. There's no need for any of that. It's not going to make any difference. You're not going to get any extra reward for that. It's not going to injure shaitan in any way further. So, collect a minimum of 49 pebbles, and thereafter, you're going to spend this night sleeping. So, find a location. It could be with your group, or if you want to be alone, spend that time alone, or depending on the space and the arrangements when you get there. But you're going to be sleeping under the open sky. And that's why I said maybe you might want to, if you don't have already a sleeping bag or included in your package, you may want to take a very small sleeping bag with you. So just to open up, so you got something to basically support your back when you're lying on the bare ground. As you lie down, have the amazing sleep of Muzdalifah. Some people say that's the best sleep they've had in their life. Very unique. Some people they can't sleep. So maybe if you can't try to sleep, just at least close your eyes, just rest, lie down, and prepare yourself for what is going to be the busiest day of Hajj, which is the upcoming day. So, summary, day of Arafah, main thing there is your wuquf, which is your farad, which has to be between dhuhr and sunset. Then the next thing which is important for this day is you're going to combine your Maghrib and Isha Salah in Muzdalifah, and then you're going to spend this night under the stars in Muzdalifah, and you're going to collect your pebbles. Okay, so now day 3, a very busy Eid. That's what I've titled it. Now everybody else around the world is going to be busy going for Eid Salah. If you're in Hajj, there's no Eid Salah. So you're not going to be thinking about, okay, I need to do Eid Salah. What you're going to be doing firstly, okay, there's over here now, there's going to be, you're going to have to pay attention in the sense that for certain things there's an order to follow. And I've got a little acronym there to help you remember that. We'll go over that. So before we do this, the first thing you're going to do when you wake up is, of course, you're going to pray a Fajr Salah. Now, there is another wukuf. in Muzdalifah, this wukuf, it doesn't have to be as long as the Arafat one, but this is like it's like a backup plan for any du'as you wanted. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, certain du'as he made in Arafat that didn't get answered in Arafat, that he repeated in Muzdalifah and got answered in Muzdalifah. So this was the time of between Fajr Salah and sunrise. It could be straight after Salam, you just stand up and do dua for 2 minutes, for example. That's you've done your wukuf. But it has to be after sunrise. Now, sometimes people, so in Mecca and Medina, in the Masjid al-Haram specifically, they have 2 adhans for Fajr. They have the Tahajjud adhan and then they have the Fajr adhan. Now, obviously in Hajj that may not take place, but you may hear people's phones going off, for example, or you may hear adhan, or it may seem like it's Fajr time, or people will say, come let's pray Fajr. Just double check that it's actual Fajr time, because if you're going to leave after that and you've not done your wukuf, that's you missed out one of the main things of Hajj. So make sure Fajr is prayed in Fajr time. Yes, you know what time Fajr is. And thereafter, after Fajr, you stand up and you do your wukuf. It has to be done in Muzdalifah, not outside Muzdalifah. Otherwise, you will have to pay a penalty of jinayah, of slaughtering an animal. Okay, so now you can leave Muzdalifah and you're going to now go back to Mina. Anytime in the morning, depending on your group schedule. You might want to rest for a bit, or you might want to leave straight away, get there a bit early, because there's a lot you need to do. Now, when you get to Mina, you have to do 3 very important obligations. Number 1, that on this day, we're only going to pelt one, and that is the Jamra al-Aqaba, or some people may call that the big shaitan. It's the bigger wall. Before it used to be a bigger pillar, now it's a very big wall, so very hard to miss. You got it there on the left-hand side, a small picture of it. So you're going to pelt 7 stones at the Jamratul Aqaba. So the stones you collected from Muzdalifah, 7 have to go from your hand onto the pillar of the wall. That's why it's sometimes good to have backup. If you, for example, have less, you are allowed to get stones from elsewhere, anywhere you find it, other than 2 places. So around the Jamrah, any drop stones from other people, you cannot pick that up and use that for yourself. And anywhere that is, for example, near a toilet or a washroom, there's a chance they may be impure. Other than that, you can collect stones from anywhere. So you're going to, each stone, you're going to say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, and you're going to throw it. You probably seen videos of like people doing all 360 and going for a full, trying to throw a javelin and doing all sorts. Just basic, with your thumb and your index finger, you got your pebble, Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, throw it towards the area where the pillar, the wall is. And thereafter, once you've done that, the next thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to, your qurbani, your sacrifice is going to take place. Now, for most of us, we're not actually going to sacrifice it ourselves, although for the slaughterhouses in Mina is very close to the European camp. So if you think you've got time and there's a group of you that want to go watch it or actually do it, maybe if your schedule allows for that, you could do that. But thereafter, once the sacrifice has been done, that's only after that you can cut your hair, shave your head. Now remember, it has to be done in this order, otherwise there's going to be a penalty. So what I've done is, we've got there PASS, P-A-S-S. If you remember this acronym PASS, you'll always remember the order. Pelting first, then animal sacrifice, and then shaving of the head. If you remember PASS, you'll never get it wrong, inshallah. So on the day of Eid, or the 10th of the Hijjah, which in Hajj is referred to as Yawm al-Nahr, you're going to pelt 7 stones on Jamrat al-Aqaba. Then you are going to, maybe you might get a text or a notification, if you've, depending on your package, or if you've got a coupon, they may give you a time frame after which you can expect your sacrifice is done. You can only cut your hair after your sacrifice is done. Otherwise, at the end of Hajj, you have to pay a penalty of another sacrifice of an animal, a jinayah. So make sure you don't do it until you know your sacrifice has been done. And thereafter, now why is the hurry to cut your hair? Because obviously, once you've cut your hair, you can take the Ihram clothes off. You can come out of Ihram. And so, from the 8th, the 9th, and up till whatever time this is on the 10th, you've been in Ihram for nearly 3 days. Yeah, it's not easy, so you do want to get out of Ihram. So, you may want to, for example, go straight after sunrise and do the pelting. However, that is the busiest time. So, it might not be the best option, because the huge crowds, the sun will, after the sun has risen, you've got there, you're approaching Zawal time. Remember, you've got all of this, you can do it up till sunset. However, whatever time frame you have for your qurbani, for your sacrifice, it's not called qurbani, sorry, they're two separate things. Your animal sacrifice of Hajj, whatever time your sacrifice of Hajj is, your pelting has to be done before that. That's the main thing you have to remember. Your pelting, then your sacrifice, then you can cut your hair. Now, after that, the fourth thing you need to do after you've done these three is the Tawaf al-Ifada or Tawaf al-Ziyarah. Now, this does not have to follow the sequence. It could actually be before this. So, for example, if they specifically it happens to for sisters, if their cycle is about to approach and they know their periods could start any moment, and it's the day of Yawm al-Nahr, and Tawaf al-Ziyarah or Tawaf al-Ifada, they're both two names for the same thing, is a very important pillar of Hajj. It has to be done. If you miss it, then, for example, if a sister is on her periods and she can't do it, and the group goes to Hajj finishes and the group goes to Medina, they will have to return before they go back home to Mecca and do that Tawaf, otherwise the Hajj won't count. So, if a sister thinks that her periods is going to come on, you could maybe from before you even pelt the stones, go straight to Mecca. If it's your wife or your sister and you want to go with them, do your Tawaf, get your Tawaf done. Because once the period starts, you cannot enter the masjid anymore. You cannot enter Masjid al-Haram, you cannot do Tawaf, so you have to do it. So maybe you might want to do that. Go do your Tawaf, and then come back to Mina and do your pelting of your stones, and then your sacrifice, and the cutting of the hair, shaving of the head. So there's two aspects of this day. Number one, pass. Number two, the Tawaf al-Ziyarah or Tawaf al-Ifada. There are now just some points at the bottom. Pelting can be any time, preferably it has to be finished before sunset. Now after sunset you can still do it, but it's makruh to delay after sunset. So it will still count, but obviously then that means your qurbani is delayed, your sacrifice is delayed, and then the cutting of your hair is also delayed. So you just got to think about that. All 7 stones should hit the pillar of the wall. It is sunnah throughout Hajj to make dua after pelting of each wall. So after pelting, make a very small quick dua. Don't just do your pelting and walk away after that. Spend some time remembering Allah, making dua. Then this night, the night between the 10th and the 11th. For the Hanafi madhab, it is sunnah to spend that night in Mina. For the other 3 madhabs, it is wajib, they have to spend the night in Mina. So for example, if you want to, I'm not encouraging it because it is still sunnah to, but if you want to, you have a non-shifting package and your belongings are in Mecca, you want to stay the night there, it's not ideal, it's not in accordance with the sunnah, but you can do that. Yeah. And also remember, when you do go for your Tawaf al-Ifada and you want to, in that time, wherever your main hotel is, if it's non-shifting, you want to go to your hotel, shower up, change your clothes, have a bit of rest, you're allowed to do all of that. You don't have to spend your entire time in Mina. But these 3 things, the first 3, the pass has to be done in Mina. So remember that, always remember that. Pass in Mina and the Tawaf al-Ziyarah, Tawaf al-Ifada. Those are the 2 main things for this busy Eid. What's left now? So, let's say we're all spending the night in Mina. So the next day in the morning, we are going to then, after Dhuhr Salah, go to pelt. So, for the 11th and the 12th, the same routine. Stay the night, wake up in the morning, have some breakfast, do a bit of dua, a bit of dhikr, a bit of worship, whatever you can. Pray your Dhuhr Salah. After you pray the Dhuhr Salah, you've got until sunset to do the pelting. Now remember, on the left hand side, that's where you're going to be going. There's all these tunnels and bridges, and some of it may be in the sunlight. You may not want to go straight after Dhuhr. You may want to go after Asr when it's closer to Maghrib, for example. Or you may want to go when it's cooler, when it's less crowd. So you can gauge that, inshallah. And on this day, it's not only the Jamr al-Aqaba. On this day, we have to pelt all three. So we're going to start off with the small one. You'll just be normally following the crowds anyway. They're probably unlikely you're going to get the order of this wrong. But you need to remember the small one first, then the middle one, and then the Jamr al-Aqaba, the big one. And for each of them, 7 stones. 7 for each. That's why we needed 49 minimum. So the first day, the 7 there. And then these 2 days, the 7 for each. So 7 times 3, 21. For 2 days, and so that makes 49 minimum for your pelting of Hajj. But like I said, you might lose 1 or 2, or you might drop it, or so anything can happen. It's a good idea to get a couple more, inshallah. If you do lose it and you don't think I need to go all the way back to Muzdalifah to get the pebbles, like I mentioned, you can get it from anywhere other than the Jamarat and anywhere other than the toilet areas. Anyway, you'll find some pebbles on the ground. Even if you go out here in Medina, you'll find some pebbles. So you'll find pebbles. Don't think, oh, where am I going to get the pebbles from? So remember, only thing you have to do on this day is the pelting. So it's pretty relaxed, really. Wind down, have a rest, pray, do your basic worship, your ibadah, spend some time in dhikr, dua. But mainly, we're going to do the pelting of all three of 7 per jamara, inshallah. And the timing for this, like I said, is after dhuhr, before sunset. Now, after sunset, you could potentially go back to Mecca or to your hotel or go to sleep. However, remember, it's a busy time. Taxis, key season. So the roads that are not blocked, most roads are blocked or closed, you're gridlocked. Sometimes a normal journey of 20 minutes can take 6 hours because of how busy it is. So it might not be an option. But you do really want to be going to and fro. So you can stay in Mina another night. Although it's only sunnah to stay in Mina, it's better to stay in Mina. It's easier to stay in Mina, so just stay in Mina. Yeah, so stay the night in Mina. On the 11th, do this. Again, stay one more night. On the 12th, do this. Once you've done your 7th on the 12th, your Hajj is done. You have one thing left, which doesn't have to be done straight away. It could be when you're leaving Mecca. And what is that? We're going to talk about that on the next slide. So we've done day 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So what's remaining then? So like I mentioned at the start, that if you are still in Mina and the Fajr of the 13th day starts. The Fajr of the 13th day starts, that means now you have to do another round of pelting. It is rewarding to do also pelting on the 13th. However, you don't have to. The only time you have to is if you're there at Fajr time. Fajr starts 13th of the Hijjah. I have to pelt all 3 Jamarat now. Same as the previous days. One thing I forgot to mention, I'm going to go back 2 slides. Once you've done your pass, you've cut your hair, you're out of the clothing of Ihram, that means you're out of the state of the Ihram. However, one thing you still can't do, and that is you can't engage in sexual relations until you have done your Tawaf al-Ziyarah, Tawaf al-Ifada. So make sure you remember that. Once you've done your Tawaf al-Ziyarah, now all the restrictions of Ihram are lifted. So for pass, you are allowed to wear normal clothes. You can cover your hair, you can cover your face, you can do anything else. You can use soap, perfume, deodorant, anything. The only thing you can't do is engage in intimacy with your wife or your spouse. But other than that, you can do anything until you've done your Tawaf al-Ziyarah and Ifada. So going back here now, once you've done your pelting, if you're there on the 13th, then you need to do your next round of pelting. However, now the timing changes. For the 13th, it's not going to be after Dhuhr, it has to be finished before Dhuhr. Now most of the tents and stuff, they start putting stuff away after the 12th, so the morning of the 13th, Mina is pretty empty and is quiet compared to the 12th and the 11th. Obviously there will still be people there because some people opt to do this. So if you are there, you must complete this before Dhuhr time, before Zawal, before the start of Dhuhr time. You must complete again all 3 Jamarat, not just the big one. So the small one first, then the medium one, and then the large one, and then you have completed all 3. There is only one thing left for your Hajj now. So now this can be done anytime. And you don't need Ihram for this. You just need to do one last Tawaf. And that Tawaf is known as the farewell Tawaf. Really, it should be the last thing you do before you leave. Because it's like a conclusion to your Hajj. So if you are going to be in Mecca, for example, another 3 days after, then just stay in Mecca like you would if you go for Umrah or like you did before Hajj. Spend some time in Masjid al-Haram, drink some Zamzam as much as you can. Whatever we talked about Mecca in last session, you can do any of those things. And then before you leave Mecca, Tawaf al-Wada, the farewell pilgrimage, is wajib. You have to do before you leave Mecca to conclude your Hajj. The only people from whom the farewell pilgrimage is excused and they don't need to come back to do it is if a woman's period starts, then the Tawaf al-Wada, the farewell Tawaf, is dropped. They don't need to do it. They don't need to come back from Medina or come back, wait or delay their journey because they can't do it at this time. And this Tawaf al-Wada can be done any time after your Tawaf al-Ifada and your Sa'i. So we didn't quite talk about Sa'i when we talked about it there. We'll go back there inshallah. So with your Tawaf al-Ifada and Ziyarah, you're now also going to do sa'i, which is you're going to go between Safa and Marwa. If you want, we talked about that in detail last week about the green lights and the running and where to start from. 7 rounds from Safa to Marwa is 1 round, Marwa to Safa another round. You're going to complete those 7 rounds. So once you've done your Tawaf al-Ziyarah and Tawaf al-Ifada and you've done your sa'i, really, once you've done your pelting and you're leaving Mecca, you can do your Tawaf al-Wada straight away. You can even, so that should be, ideally, it should be the last thing you do before you leave Mecca. But sometimes, you can't always have the ideal scenario. You may need to do it a bit earlier, for example, because your coach is going to leave or you might not make it in time. So as soon as you have done your Tawaf al-Ifada and your sa'i, you can do this final farewell Tawaf, inshallah. Like I said, I may have rushed something, I might have overlooked something, you may have misunderstood something. Just scan the QR code, write it, and I'll go through it in the Q&A at the end, inshallah. Okay, so now this is a conclusion of your Hajj. We've gone through the 5 days. Day number 1, we were in the tents of Mina. We entered into Ihram in Mecca. We made our way to Mina. From Dhuhr to Isha, we were in Mina. We stayed in our tent. We rested. We did a bit of worship. We stayed the night, and then we prayed Fajr in Mina. Then we moved on to day 2, the 9th, which is known as the Yawm al-Arafah. We went to Arafah. We did wuquf, which was standing in dua. This was between Dhuhr and Maghrib, so between Dhuhr and sunset. The entire time we spent in wuquf. Thereafter, we left for Muzdalifah after sunset, but we didn't pray our Maghrib. We got to Muzdalifah, and when we got there, we prayed our Maghrib and Isha together. We stayed the night under the stars, and thereafter, whenever we got time, we got our 49 pebbles together, and then we prayed our Fajr again in Muzdalifah the next day in the morning, and then we stood up for a while. We made dua. And then we pelted the 7 stones on the large shaitan, Jamra al-Aqaba. Then we did pass, which was basically the pelting, the sacrifice and shaving of the head. And then we had Tawaf al-Ifada, also known as Tawaf al-Ziyarah, and Sa'i of Safa Marwa. That was on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. Thereafter, 11th and 12th, we just continued in Mina, where we basically pelted after Dhuhr Salah, each of the Jamarat, 7 per Jamara, and after that we ended our Hajj with the farewell Tawaf. So that's very, very summarized, a quick summary of the pelting of Hajj. Okay, so now obviously you go for Hajj, you're going to the blessed lands. Every fiqh book written throughout history, whenever it talks about Umrah or it talks about Hajj, it concludes the chapter with the final section, which is about visiting Medina Munawwara. So before we get to our logistics, couple of tips about visa, meningitis, useful websites and stuff like that we talked about. We're going to quickly go over visiting Medina Munawwara, visiting the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and then after that we have our Q&A, inshallah. Throughout this time, feel free, there are refreshments on both sides. If you do want to get some tea, have some biscuits, or feel free to help yourself, inshallah. But we'll move on to the next part of this workshop today, which is about visiting Medina Munawwara. Now before we get there, I talked about this last week as well, you've probably seen it on the banner at the back, your Medina Companion, an app which, if you're visiting Medina, when you're visiting Medina rather, this is an app that you should have, which is recommended du'as for when you enter Medina, when you're on the road to Medina, the different stages in Medina, when you go to Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's grave, what to read at each section, how to give salam to Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And then in preparation of that, from now, we're sending our gifts forward to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, enhancing our love for Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Before we get there, there's different collections of the Durood of Salat and Salam and many other features there. You've got the QR codes there. If you scan that, you'll go to the App Store. The colored one is for the Google Store, and the black one's for the App Store. For Apple, you can download the app, inshallah. Okay, so we're going towards Madinatul Munawwara. Now, the word used in classical Arabic books of Hajj and Umrah is ziyarah. Ziyarah means to visit. So what are you visiting? Why do they refer to Medina as ziyarah? There's 3 things I've written here. You're visiting grave, masjid and city. So, and the reason I've separated those is because there's separate virtues for each of those. So there's separate virtues for visiting in the grave of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. There's separate virtues for visiting and praying in the masjid of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And there's separate virtues for visiting the city and spending time and money in the city of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We're going there for, number 1, a spiritual connection with Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We're going there to attain the forgiveness of Allah and the intercession of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And every moment we go there is a precious moment. So on your way to Medina, so either it's before Hajj, depending on your package. It could be you're going Medina first, or it could be after your Hajj. On your way to Medina, think about how much sunnah have I brought into my life. Before I actually go before the Prophet ﷺ, have I prepared myself by increasing the sunnahs in my life, increasing my salawat and durood on Rasulullah ﷺ, and then traveling with yearning and enthusiasm. Now I mentioned this last week also. Classically, people, scholars, pious people, when they would go to Medina Munawwara, all the famous anashid and na'at and the things, praises of Rasulullah that we hear, a lot of these were written and sung because of the journey to Medina. And this is the time when these nasheeds are supposed to be. So, I mentioned this last week, I'll mention it again for those that weren't here. If you're not comfortable or confident in maybe singing or reciting in front of your family members and your colleagues of your group, maybe it might be a good idea to maybe take some earphones and listen to some anashid, or have someone there that can. Then the whole purpose of this is what? To enhance your yearning and your enthusiasm for the city of the Prophet ﷺ, for his masjid, for coming in. You're traveling to visit your beloved, and so to prepare yourself, spiritually, to get you in the mode, you could say. That's what's that for. That's there for. And then you're going to enter Madinatul Munawwara with humility and humbleness. Check into your hotel, freshen up, and then you're going to shower, wear your best sunnah garments, perfume yourself, and also spend on the people of Medina. Now, spending on the people of Medina, so for example, like I said, it's not a shopping trip you're going on, but there will be stuff you want to buy. Maybe for your family members, for your loved ones, for yourself, there may be things you want to buy. Try and do most of your shopping in Medina. The reason is because there is a specific virtue of spending on the people of Medina. If you spend or you buy from the shops there, maybe not the shops around the Haram because you don't know who's owned, but if you go a bit further out, the shops, the locals that have their markets, their stores, their small shops, spend on them. If you spend on the people of Medina, you'll see when you return the barakah of that money come back. And you'll see it in a very quick amount of time, you're thinking, this is how much I spent in Medina, I've already got it back, subhanallah. And not only that, lasting barakah in your life, in your rizq, in your sustenance, inshallah. So spend on the people of Medina, make an intention for that. Whilst you're there, make sure you're dressed in sunnah, you have silence and salawat, you take in the peace, tranquility of Medina. When you were in Mecca and Hajj, it's very busy. Temperament of Mecca, you're always, Hajj is all in the boundaries of Haram. Mecca is a city which historically has always had a temperament of heat. And with hot temperature, you have hot temper, you have rush, hustle and bustle. And if you look at the seerah of Rasulullah ﷺ also, there were two aspects. His life in Mecca was very hard. And his life in Medina was where he got that peace and tranquility. And it's like these places echo that aspect of the seerah. That in Mecca is busy, there's more crowds, the people are more harsh, people get angry quicker, you feel the heat more, you feel the rush more. And when you get to Medina, you feel that peace and tranquility. So take that in when you get there. When you get to Masjid Nabawi, pray 2 rakats and then make some dua, whatever you wish for in Mecca and Medina. This is a place where du'as are accepted, which is come true. So make the most of your time at the courtyard of the Prophet ﷺ. Now, one key thing we're going to do in Medina is to do what? To visit Rasulullah ﷺ's grave. So let's have a run through of that, and then we're going to talk about the booking for Rawda, what is actually Rawda and stuff like that, before we end the chapter of Medina. So, a quick video of what you're going for. This is specifically for the male. You'll enter from gate number 1, Bab al-Salam. You'll come here, you'll come to the stage, and you'll come in front of the grave of Rasulullah ﷺ. Now, in this video, there's two purposes I've put this here. Number 1, to show you what to expect, but number 2, to show you what not to do. So in this video, you probably saw a large number of phones raised, and they're busy taking videos. Now, if you're going in front of Rasulullah ﷺ's grave, how are you going to have that spiritual moment in front of Rasulullah ﷺ's grave if you're focusing, making sure you got the best angle whilst you're there? And is it really respectful to go there in that way? Whether it's halal or haram, whether you get a sin or reward or whatever, put all of that aside. Capturing your memories, put that aside. Is it respectful to where you're going and who you're standing in front of? Think of it like that, inshallah, and that's not what to do, inshallah. Okay, so now we're going to be going in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like I mentioned at the beginning, there's two things we're going to get here: forgiveness and intercession. And this comes from the ayah in the Quran where Allah says, وَلَوْ أَنَّهُمْ إِذْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُم. If they had wronged themselves with sins, جَاءُوكَ, they came to you, فَاسْتَغْفَرُ اللَّهُ وَاسْتَغْفَرَ لَهُمُ الرَّسُولُ. They sought forgiveness from Allah for their sins. And Rasulullah also asked Allah to forgive their sins. لَوَجَدُ اللَّهَ تَوَّابًا رَحِيمًا. They would find Allah most forgiving, most merciful. So, we're going there. We're going to go to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We're going to give our salam. And as per the hadith, he hears our salam, he replies to our salam, and he makes dua for us. Anything good he sees from us, he thanks Allah and he makes dua for us. Any defaults or defects he sees in us, rather, he asks Allah to forgive us and help us. That is what's unique about visiting Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, alongside the journey of love that we have. Okay, so if it's not Farz Salah time, when you enter the masjid, pray 2 rakats, Tahiyyatul Masjid, stand to one side or sit down in a quiet place, make dua. Oh Allah, make Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam happy with me. Try to spend your time there with maximum humility, humbleness. When you're going to the actual grave, like that video I showed you when you're entering, Masjid Nabawi, the decor, the architecture is absolutely beautiful. So don't get distracted by this when you're going to do your salam. Try and keep your gaze lowered. Try to, and the queue might be long. That's where your FCPM app may come into use, your Durood app, where you can, as you're waiting in the queue, waiting to go, read as much Durood and Salawat as you can. And then you're going to finally get there in front of the golden mesh. Unfortunately, this is only for the brothers. The sisters will go from the side or the back when they go to the Rawdah. And when we look at the diagram, we'll be able to understand that. But Salawat is not only presented from here. When it comes to Medina specifically, you can give salawat to Rasulullah from anywhere around. You see the green dome, you can give salam to Rasulullah from wherever you want, and it's the same as being in front of it. And the salat and salam to Rasulullah, after that, request for the intercession of Rasulullah and ask Allah, make some dua and make the most of this very special moment. Now, when you are standing in front of the bigger gold circle, you're only going to get like 30 seconds. The guards will push you, the police will push you, tell you move on. So it's a very short amount of time. So that's why maybe on the way as you're walking in, you've already started your salam. So when you're there, you've got that quick 30-second moment and you're now going to move on. Where are you going to move on? You're going to enter from Babu Salam, then you're going to go to the grave of Rasulullah. Directly beside that, you have the graves of Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhuma. Give salam to them both also. They are buried directly beside Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there's the first 2 holes people like to look through. There's nothing there. If you give salam there, you're not giving salam to anyone there. They just if you look through, you'll just see the open space and the wall of the tomb of Aisha, the room of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. The gold circle in the middle, that's where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's face is directly aligned with. And the 2 circles after that is directly in line with the faces of Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhuma. Okay, so now what is the Rawdah? People sometimes refer to this, what you see in this image, as Rawdah Mubarakah. This is also known as Muwajah Sharifa. However, this wall or this mesh is not the Rawdah. The Rawdah is actually, before we do that, a quick 3 ahadith. 1 prayer in Masjid Nabawi is better than 1,000 prayers elsewhere. So if I pray 1 salah in Masjid Nabawi with Jama'ah, it's like a prayer, I'll get the reward of 1,000 salah. So maximize, try and get the most of that while you're there. Whatever is in between my pulpit and my house is the Rawdah, the garden of Jannah. That's what the Rawdah actually is. It's actual heaven and earth. When you talk about heaven and earth, people like certain places and they say, oh, it's like heaven and earth. This is actually, when you are there, you are in Jannah. And on the Day of Judgment, when the trumpet is blown, this part of land will be lifted up and put directly in Jannah. So this is Jannah. And also whoever visits my grave after my death is like the one who has visited me during my lifetime. So another hadith there. So this is what the Riyadul Jannah or Rawdah looks like. We have the pulpit on the right hand side. On the far left we have the green mesh, which is the wall adjacent between the Prophet ﷺ's grave and the masjid, or his room and the masjid. So you can also, sisters that go to the Rawdah, they normally give the salam from here or from the back wall. And there's all these pillars here. So we're going to look at a quick diagram of what each of these represent. So over here we have the large green circle, that's the green dome. The green dome sits on top of the house of Aisha, which holds the sacred chamber. The bottom furthest to the right is the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Directly behind him In line with the chest of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the face of Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala an, and directly behind him in line with the chest of Abu Bakr is the grave of Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhuma. So that's the graves. Now the graves, the blue wall, the blue square we have, 6 foot down on the ground, all the way till the green dome. There is no door, no window, completely closed off. No one can go inside. No one's been inside for hundreds of years. It's completely closed off. And then we have an outer wall, which is like a pentagon shape, and then the other shape. And so if those that look inside have seen a picture, it's like just like the Kaaba has a cloth around it. This has a green cloth around it. That's actually what you see. So nobody can actually see the graves. If someone sends you a bogus photo on WhatsApp, a grave. There was a couple of years ago, it was going on this grave of Rasulullah sallam. That was actually a grave from Turkey of one of the pious that passed away in Turkey. So nobody's ever seen the inside of the grave of Rasulullah sallam. That's what you see. The road actually starts from behind the green mesh, and it extends all the way till the pulpit, and the blue circles are the different pillars. At the bottom there we have the mihrab where Rasulullah sallam led the salah, and beside that the pillar that is adjacent to that where the Imam leads salah. So if you go back here, you can't really see it in this image, but it's directly where that sort of pyramid is on top. Beside that there's a pillar, and that is the location where Ustuwana al-Hannana, which is where the pillar that the weeping bark of a tree trunk that Rasulullah used to lean on when he used to give his sermons. When the pulpit was built, he moved away from it, and all of the Sahaba, everyone present, heard a weeping sound or a crying sound. And that's why that was called Ustuwana al-Hannana. And then Rasulullah went and embraced the pillar, put his hand on the pillar, calmed it down, and gave it the option of accompanying him in Jannah as part of his Jannah. So that pillar will get, that piece of dead bark of wood will be given companionship of Rasulullah in Jannah also. So, everything has life, everything witnesses. Okay, so then we have Ustuwana Aisha, the pillar of Aisha. This pillar, Aisha radiallahu ta'ala said that if people knew the virtue of praying here, or what they get if they make dua here, they would fight to go to this place. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to fight when you go there. This is to tell you the importance of it. So whenever you do get a chance to go in the Rawdah, if you can get there, subhanAllah, that's amazing. If you can't, don't force your way. You've still got in the Rawdah, that's the main thing. Then besides that, you have Ustuwana at-Tawbah. There was a companion, Abu Lubaba, he tied himself to this pillar, and he said, no one's allowed to untie me until Allah declares that He's forgiven me. And then after a couple of days, when the time had passed and Allah declared His forgiveness, Rasulullah himself untied him from that pillar. So that's known as the pillar of Tawbah. And then besides that, which is the pillar on the green mesh, Ustuwana as-Sarir, this is where Rasulullah's bedding would be in i'tikaf. Behind that, Ustuwana al-Haras, the pillar of the guard. This is where Ali radiallahu ta'ala used to occasionally stand as a guard to the house of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And behind that is Ustuwana al-Wufud. This is where Rasulullah would meet ambassadors from the different emperors that would come and visit him. And inside the grave compound, we have Ustuwana Jibreel, where Jibreel would come and talk to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Behind that also, we have the room of Fatima, the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And behind that, so when you come in and you enter the masjid from after the Nusuk guys take you in to visit the Rawdah, when you see the back wall, you'll see there is a gold bookshelf of Qur'ans. And that was where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to actually pray his tahajjud salah. So you'll be able to see that when you go there, inshallah. Okay, so how do you actually get in here? How do you make these booking slots for the Rawdah? So what you need to do is you need to have a Nusuk app. On the Nusuk app, once you've entered your visa details, they normally every 30 minutes a window opens, they come and go. You need to just keep on top of it, try and look. You will get a 30-minute slot. You can only get a booking once every 365 days. So that means if you've fallen asleep, your booking was at a time where you were resting, you can't go to the information desk at the back or ask any of the workers, I missed my booking because I fell asleep, I'm here, half an hour later, can I still come? They'll say, sorry, your fault, and you can't come until 365 days later. An entire year later, the app will let you make another booking. So make sure whenever you do get your booking, go beforehand. Don't lose out on this opportunity. Although your slot says 30 minutes, depending on the crowd and how busy it is, you may only get 3 minutes or 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So don't start trying to argue or fight with them, especially in that sacred place, that why are you kicking me out when I've only prayed 2 rakats. When you do get there, pray your 2 rakats, make the most of it. Try and make dua. Try maybe not go to where everybody goes on the left. Go to a quieter area so you get more time. They take those people out near the pillar of Aisha quickest, near the green mess the quickest. Maybe if you go more to the right or a bit towards the back, you may get a bit more time. They may take you out later on. But be prepared for that also. It does say slots open Friday 11 a.m. for the upcoming week. Sometimes that's on a Thursday night also. That can change Hajj season. But normally every half an hour. The new app, it won't look like this. It's slightly different. They've changed the layout of the new app, but it's the same concept. You will have a calendar where it will show you it's available, what days are available. You will click on it and you will choose the time that you do your booking. So that's how you do the booking. Now, normally, obviously, Hajj time, you're restricted to your package. But if you are going early, for example, and you get to spend 8 days in Medina, then Rasulullah said, whoever performs 40 salah in my masjid, all in one go, without missing any salah in between, you get two things. Number one, freedom from the hellfire. Number two, freedom from hypocrisy. Very unique thing, which is specific to the masjid of Rasulullah. So maybe you can make an intention later on. If not Hajj time now, Allah will take me for Umrah again. Maybe make a dua that Allah take you again and again, take us all again and again. Make dua for me also when you're there. But when maybe Allah will let you go for Umrah and you can have a booking of 9-10 days in Medina where you can maybe do this, inshallah. Other than that, what can you do in Medina? If you're there, obviously we're going to go and give salam to the Prophet ﷺ. You can only go for Roda for 30 minutes or maybe less. What else can I do? So in Medina to Munawwara, before we do that,
أتينا لدار النبي الكريم وشوق الفؤاد إليها عظيم فطوبى لكم أنتم أهلها بهذا المقام وهذا النعيم بأرض المدينة صحب كرام كفانا وضحوا لكي لا نهيم وما بين منباره سيدي ومسكانه روضة من نعيم فيا أهل طيبة تكونوا بها على نهج أسلافنا المستقيم وعظم أخي دائما شأنها ففي أرضها خير جسم يقيم.
So that last line that was there, that's why I put it. It wasn't because I wanted a break from talking. The last line in the section of poetry that I was recited, which is a key, very important point. فَفِي أَرْضِهَا خَيْرُ جِسْمٍ يُقِيمٍ. In its land, the best of bodies resides. So remember, when you're in Medina, you're walking on land under which Rasulullah ﷺ is buried. So each person should have their own understanding of what respect is, what adab is, and based on your interpretation of respect and your love, you may do you may act in whichever way you think is most respectful. So, for example, Imam Malik, one of the great, I'll give this example last week, just to repeat for those that weren't here. Imam Malik, one of the greatest scholars of Islam, one of the four madhahib, the Malikiya is named after him. He was known as the Imam of Medina, born from Medina, from the people of Medina. However, throughout his life, two things he didn't do in the land of Medina. He didn't ride an animal, and so no mode of transport, and he didn't wear any footwear. And he would say the reason for this is because how can I walk on a land with footwear or on an animal wherein under that land Rasulullah is buried, or these are the very places where Rasulullah's footsteps treaded. So this was his level of love, his level of respect, and how he did it. I'm not telling you have to walk barefooted and get blisters on your feet. There's no longer sand there, you have concrete, you have all sorts, you don't need to do that. But what you think, this is just an example, what you think is going to be the best way for you to respect the city and maintain the adab. So I've repeated that there, maintain your adab, don't waste your time in Medina. So the question was, what can you do in Medina? Don't waste your time, maintain your adab, every moment is precious, uphold the sanctity of the places, maximize your time in salawat and salam. Every time you see the green dome, every time you go in the masjid, say salam to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you can, you've got time, try maybe complete a Quran in Medina. Spend most of your time in Masjid al-Nabawi. Try to aim to spend and perform every single one of your salats with jama'ah in Masjid al-Nabawi. Then you can go for ziyarah, for visiting the landmarks. So we've heard bayans of seerah, we've read books of seerah, we've maybe seen videos talking about different aspects of the seerah. This is the moment for you to go and see where these places where these events took place. So last week I gave the recommendation on my list of useful websites, it'll come up again, of one of my friends in Medina who started a new tour guiding group in Medina called the haramainguide.com, and they take you to all these places. He's also got a book about Medina which has a QR code. If you want to go yourself, you can scan that QR code, it'll take you to Google Maps, it'll give you the location, you can go there, and also got a brief summary of the history behind that place. So go and visit some of the landmarks. You might not get time to go all of them because it is Hajj season. It could be before Hajj, you need to save energy, or it could be after Hajj, you're tired, but at least go see a few. So some recommendations for brothers, you can also go to Jannatul Baqi after Fajr Salah. It's open until sunrise. Try and go visit the Mount Uhud. Prophet ﷺ said about Mount Uhud, Jabalun yuhibbuna wa nuhibbu. This is a mountain that loves us and we love it. The people of Uhud are amazing as well. Some of my best friends in Medina actually live in the area from Uhud as well. There's a smaller mountain there called Jabal al-Rumat, which is a very small mountain, even a little child can climb. So you're not going to be able to climb the Mount Uhud, it's very big. But you can maybe climb the small mountain of Archers, see where the location of the Battle of Uhud took place. There's a well of Gharas, the water of that well was used for the funeral of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to wash his blessed body. If you're there on a Saturday, then you can try to do it on a Saturday. If not, you can do this any day. But every Saturday, Rasulullah would go to Masjid Quba. Sometimes he'd go walking, sometimes he would go riding. And he'd go there and he'd perform 2 rakats. Now, any day whilst you're in Medina, it doesn't have to be on Saturday, but Saturday is sunnah, but you can go any day. Whoever does wudu goes to Masjid Quba. Whether you go walking on Quba walk, you take the golf car, buggy that for maybe 10-15 riyals, or you go via a taxi, or however you go there. There's also bikes, like London, you can get those bikes where you can hire on the app, you scan the QR code, it unlocks, and you hire a bike, go for a bike ride. If you want to do that, you can. But go to Masjid Quba, pray 2 rakats there. Whoever does that, you get a reward of an accepted Umrah. So you're going to do Umrah anyway, and Allah inshallah will accept your Umrah, you get the reward for it. But it is a very easy way of getting the reward, same reward of a completed accepted Umrah, just by praying 2 rakats in Masjid Quba. So you do wudu in your hotel or anywhere before you start going, you get there, pray your 2 rakats, and you get a reward of an Umrah. So a good opportunity to do that. There's some wells like the garden of Uthman has as well, the garden of Salman Farsi. There's some masjids from different aspects of Seerah. So we have Qiblatain, the Masjid al-Fath, the 7 masjids rather. There's Masjid Jumu'ah where the first Jumu'ah took place, Masjid Abu Dhar, Masjid Ghamama where they would perform Eid Salah and a Salah for istisqa, asking for rain. Other than that, there's a very nice museum near the railway station on the way to the airport called Dar al-Madina Museum. If you have time, I know Hajj time is a bit harder, if you have time, go and visit. But also around Masjid Nabawi now, they've made quite a lot of new museums, and they've put a lot of time, research, money into it, and it's amazing some of the stuff they have on display and they offer at these museums. If you have time, do visit these inshallah. And also I put over here, like I said, Mecca, the temperament was hot. The temperament of Medina is cool and peaceful, so make the most of that time there inshallah. Okay, so now moving on to the last section before the Q&A, which is some tips and logistics and essentials. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a list of 6 websites which are very useful. The first one, Islamic landmarks. So if you want to do any reading before you go, including, you might want to know the history of Mina, the history of Arafat, some things about it. Islamic landmarks, they've got a very nice website. It's not only for Mecca and Medina, they've got for nearly all the places in the world where Muslims can travel to. They've got guides and information, and it's quite a good resource. Then we have Council of British Hajj and Umrah UK. They have, if there's any latest news like medical news or any new laws that are made by the Saudi government or anything, you'll find all of the latest information there. There's also pilgrim.com, they have some information there as well. Then you have you got our website, the Hajj Umrah Essentials. So before you go, if there's any shopping you need to do for your things, you can get your stuff. Also, if you are there and you notice, I need to now pay my jinayat, my violations. How do I know who's going to sacrifice an animal and distribute it in Mecca? So it's on my website as well on the violations page, but also the links there, but it's there as well. Adahi.org is a local Saudi-based charity. That's one of the main things they offer. Is you just like a normal online donation, like a charity website. You can make the donation on your phone or on a device, and they will send you a notification or a message to let you know it's been slaughtered and it's been distributed in this area of Mecca or whatever project local distribution projects they have in Mecca. So that way, that's an easy way to find someone to do it. Or you can find people there that do offer, but you gotta be very careful. You might find some fraudsters just saying, oh, you need to pay, you need to slaughter animals. I've got a slaughterhouse now. Where's the proof? You don't know. So sometimes this is the best option. And then lastly, I was talking about my friend in Medina who's got that tour groups he does. So the haramainguide.com, very easy to book. The day you want, how many people, and the time, and just book it, and you'll get an email confirmation or a notification, and then he'll come and pick you up from your hotel and take you. There's different types of tours he does in Medina. He also does a walking tour of Masjid Nabawi. So around the compound of Masjid Nabawi, he will take you to all the different places. He will say the house of this companion was here, this well was here, this happened here. It's quite informative, quite good, quite nice. So private education tours, all in English. There's also that there. Thereafter, useful apps you might need. You need a Nusuk app for the booking of Rawda. If you're going slightly earlier than your package, or you don't have transport included, you may want to travel by the Haramain train. This is more obviously for Umrah season, but maybe if you go a bit earlier if you want to get to Mecca or Medina, you can travel by train. They have a very simple app, just like the train line app. We've got the SCPM app there. We've got Ummah Welfare Trust, the charity. They've got a project called Life with Allah. They've got an app called Dhikr and Dua. Beautiful app. On there, I was mentioning sunnah du'as you could use to prepare for your du'as, for your du'a day, for your wuquf. Maybe get some du'as from there. And if you have it at hand, maybe when you're relaxing in Mina and you want to think of making some du'as, you're preparing a du'a list, you can look at some sunnah du'as there. It has the translation and the transliteration and the references there. So that's quite useful as well. Getting around now, in Hajj season it is very packed, but maybe in Medina it's slightly easier. Taxis will rip you off. It's their key season to make money. So you may want to opt for Uber. They have Uber there. They're not allowed to set the prices. It's automatically set. So that way you're not going to get ripped off. Saudi have their own, the Arab world has their own version of Uber, which is Genie and Kareem, two different companies. Works the same way. Within the Arabs, Genie and Kareem is more popular. Within the Westerners, Uber is more popular. That's an option there. Also, just a quick tip, you may want to get your airline app. It's very easy to check in on there, change your seats or any last minute stuff, notifications on there. That's just another app you could have. Okay, before you travel, for your Hajj specifically, you may need to have a meningitis. So one of my friends is a pharmacist in Leicester. He sent me this morning, where a list of pharmacies in Leicester, their contact details, what type of meningitis vaccine they offer, the certificate will be provided, and how much it costs. So the first one on there, and some of them, basically says there that if you say you were referred to by Nizam, who helps with the Al-Falah Telegram group, they might give you like a £5-10 discount, because he works with these pharmacies as well. So he's arranged this with them, and that's what he's prepared. So if you want to take a picture of that, or any of your local pharmacies, if you haven't already done your meningitis, you can also do that there, inshallah. Other than that, we talked about you might want to just get an eSIM. So it's an app. You download the app and you download whatever amount of data you want, so that sometimes for logistics you will need internet connection. Like in Medina, for your Nusuk app, the QR code might not load if you're not connected to the internet. You may not able to go inside the Rawda, and they might just kick you out. So you might not want the hassle of swapping SIMs over. So brother recommended another one last week. What was it called again, brother? Voyafly. So brother here, he mentioned that Voyafly is slightly cheaper the rates than Aerolo. But Aerolo is one that I have used also, so whichever one, or there could be other ones as well. But point is, maybe you might not want to buy a SIM. This one's easier. Another tip, have a eSIM. And that comes to the end of it. Any questions on the Padlet now on the QR code? I'm going to go through now, inshallah. For Tawaf Ziyarah, do we need to do Sa'i? I'm sure we don't need to do Sa'i for Tawaf al-Wida. Yeah. So for the first one, for Tawaf al-Ziyarah or Tawaf al-Ifada, there is Sa'i with it. So you will go Safa Marwa. For the farewell Tawaf, like I mentioned, you don't need Ihram, you don't need Sa'i, just the normal Tawaf. And the Tawaf is just to say not to say goodbye, to say your farewell. It's the last thing you're doing for your Hajj before you're leaving, is your farewell pilgrimage. If any of the 5 days of Hajj fall on a Friday, is Jum'ah prayed at all? Normally in Hajj you don't have to pray Jum'ah Salah. You will pray Dhuhr Salah, so don't worry about Jum'ah there. State of Ihram, even mistakenly hair falls out as a penalty. If it doesn't come out by you doing something, then there's nothing. If you're scratching or you do something like this and one or two come out, then you should just give a little bit in charity. It doesn't have to be the full value. If you by purpose take a lot out or a handful, then you will have to give sadaqatul fitr. And if it's your head, you cut a quarter of your head or more, then you will have to sacrifice an animal. To know the specifics of the different categories of what will mean sadaqatul fitr, what will mean just giving charity, what will mean I have to slaughter an animal. I've got a list of that on the violations, the slide that had the violations QR code. Or if you just go on hajjumrahessentials.co.uk, at the top it'll say violations. It's got a whole list there, so it's easy for you. You can work that out, inshallah. Pass order for qiran or tamattu. What's that again? Pass order. So the pass order is basically your pelting of the stones, your animal sacrifice, and the shaving of your head. Whether that's for qiran or for tamattu, both. You have to follow that order. Yeah, you're following that order of pelting first, and then you're going to sacrifice the animal or get the notification or the text message your sacrifice is done, and then you are going to perform your you're going to cut your hair, come out of ihram, and then you can perform your tawaf ziyarah. You have to pray sunnah and nafil salah if you are musafir. So you don't have to pray sunnah or nafil salah, but like I said, we're going for worship, so if you've got time you can pray it, inshallah. So that obviously farad salah is halved, and the sunnah muakkada like you have for Maghrib Salah or for Dhuhr Salah, you don't have to pray it the way you would normally if you're here, but you should try pray if you've got time, inshallah. Like for example, the example we talked about combining Maghrib and Isha in Muzdalifah, so you're going to pray on Maghrib 3 Salah, and straight away the Salah of Isha will be prayed, the Farad. Thereafter you can pray your 2 Sunnah of Maghrib and your 2 Sunnah of Isha thereafter, and then perform your witr either straight away or later on before you go to sleep. So if there is time, do try and do that. You're going there for worship, remember. We're not going there to lessen our worship, we're going to increase our worship. Maybe if you're traveling here or you're traveling anywhere else, you may not need to, or you may not opt to, but try and do so when you're in Hajj, inshallah. Do we pray the traveler's prayer throughout the journey except where stipulated otherwise, especially if the case occurs where we have to pray on our own? Yes. So the moment you leave the boundaries of Leicester, i.e. for example, if you get to Foss Park on your way to Heathrow Airport, you can start doing your qasr. Anywhere you're traveling more than 48 miles. So you do your qasr until the only time you don't do qasr if you're traveling is if you're staying in one place at the same time altogether for 15 days or more. So for example, if I go very early and I'm staying 15 days in Mecca, and the 15th day, maybe the 8th or the 7th of Dhul Hijjah, so the whole 15 days I'm not leaving Mecca, then I will be classed as muqim, as a resident. So I won't get the rules of residence for other rules of Hajj, but specifically for Salah, I'm not a traveler, so I will perform full Salah. Also, if you're praying behind the Imam, after 2 rakats, you're not going to run away, you're going to pray behind what the Imam is praying. So the Imam of Masjid al-Haram or Masjid al-Nabawi, they're locals, they're not travelers, they will be praying full Salah. Anytime you pray behind a local, you pray whatever the Imam prays. If it's the other way around, I know it's not only related to Hajj, it could be any journey you make. If the person leading Salah is Musafir, they will pray 2 rakats, and if you are not a Musafir, you have to pray full. After they end their Salah, you just need to stand up and complete the Salah with the rakats. You don't even need to read Surah Al-Fatiha. You just need to stand for a small duration, maybe say Subhanallah. Obviously it's better just to pray Surah Al-Fatiha, you're in Salah, but as in you're just finishing the rakats off basically because you're not a traveler. That's if it's the other way around. But basically, most of the time you're going to be there, I doubt it, unless you're going really early, you're going to be staying for 15 days or more in one place. So you will be counted as a traveler throughout. So therefore you will half your Salah, you will do qasr of your 4 rakat Salahs throughout, except obviously if you're praying behind the local Imam. Okay, Tawaf Ifada. On day 3 from Mina, we go to Mecca to perform this Tawaf and Sa'i. And then we go back to Mina for day 4. Yes. So, the Tawaf al-Ifada, Tawaf al-Ziyarah, after that you go back to Mina. Like I said, to stay the night in Mina for us, as Hanafis, is Sunnah. But for the others, everybody will be going back to Mina anyway, because for them, they have to stay in Mina. For us, for the night of the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, it's Sunnah to stay. So we should still go and stay the night in Mina for day 4. The other option is if you stay in Azizia, you stay in Makkah, and then in the morning or Dhuhr time, after Dhuhr, you go to Mina. Main thing is you need to make sure the 11th and 12th, you're there in Mina to do your pelting of each 3 between Dhuhr and Maghrib. That's the time frame for it. So yes, you will go back to Mina for day 4. Salah time. The time for Hanafis will be different to the time for Salah in Saudi, as another madhab was ruling for praying Salah at the other time. The only time that is slightly different is Asr Salah. However, the Asr timing of the other three madhahib is also within the Hanafi madhab. The two students of Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Abu Yusuf and Imam Muhammad, both also had the opinion that that is the time of Asr. So if you're traveling, for example, or if you are in an area where you're praying behind someone who is praying Asr Salah at that time, you can pray Salah at that time and your Salah will count. The only thing is that obviously you need to make sure you don't delay your Dhuhr Salah into that first Asr time. But obviously that's a side topic in terms of the rulings for Salah. After the 10th, just to clarify, after Pascha, all other rites are done without Ihram. I.e. pelting on the 12th, for example, happens in standard clothes. Yes. So once you've shaved your head or you cut your hair, you can wear anything. Yeah. Obviously wear modest Islamic, modest clothing. Try and wear Sunnah clothing. But you can wear your normal clothes and go do your pelting. That's completely fine. Like I said, all the rules of Ihram are lifted except bar one, rule number 1. So apart from that, all the other prohibitions of Ihram have been lifted. Is it recommended to do slaughter just in case there were any unnoticed violations of Ihram? So people do opt to do that. Sometimes you may not notice you've done some violations. The Sadaqatul Fitr, I think, or giving some money, it doesn't have to be, it could be more. It's a good option that you do give some charity. Yeah, give some charity at the end of your Hajj, so that, and ideally in the Haram boundary, but you can give it outside as well, just as a compensation for any possible violations that you may have committed unnoticed. We're humans, so we don't notice everything. Mistakes might happen. Just to make sure we cover that, it's good to give some charity also. In terms of the slaughter, that's I think for you to gauge the occurrences, how regular were they, did it happen, what happened, or do you just want to be safe? Then it's not that you can't. It is good to do so. You will get a reward for it also, inshallah, because it's a charitable act. So even if there were no violations that needed you to slaughter an animal, but you slaughtered the animal, the meat was distributed in the poor of Mecca, you got the reward of charity anyway. So it's still a good thing to do, inshallah. Last question here on the Q&A. Salam, you said ideally we should complete farewell Hajj last. You probably mean the farewell Tawaf last. Does this mean we are still under rulings of Ihram with the two garments? Also, what happens if okay, we've got two questions here. First question, so the last Tawaf, the farewell Tawaf does not need Ihram. You don't need to go back into Ihram to do this, your farewell Tawaf. It's just a Tawaf you do before you leave Mecca. That's all it is. And it's like a conclusion of your Hajj. Now you have to do it as it's necessary to do it to conclude your Hajj. However, like I mentioned, if your sister's on a period, then it will fall off. That will be exempt. And the second question is, what happens if our stone does not hit the Jamarat? Do we start the 7 again, or we continue from the number we are? You continue from the number. So for example, you might have got pushed and the pebble just fell over here. And then you need to, and it was maybe your 5th one, just do another one. Yeah, do number 5 again. You don't just start again from number 1. Hope that answers the question. That comes to the conclusion of all the questions on here. If there is anything else people do want to ask after you've had the refreshments, I will still be here. We've got till about 4 o'clock to sort of start packing up and making our way, because there is another booking later on. But feel free while I'm here, if anyone wants me to clarify anything. Also, there's the stuff from the back, if anybody needs to buy anything or look at any of the stuff. If there is something there that you want that there's none left, also on our website, hajjumrahessentials.co.uk, you can also get any of the products, inshallah. Jazakallah for coming. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your journey. May Allah make your Hajj mabrur, Hajj maqbool, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all the ability to go again and again to the holy lands of Mecca and Medina. Whilst you're there also, hopefully you've attended today, so you won't forget me. You remember the Maulana that told us all of these things. You'll make dua for me there too, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.